Oh, it sure is. Apologies to everybody on Zoom. I wasn't technologically savvy enough to get that last great presentation from Gabe and Christine and Blaine on the Zoom, but we'll be sharing their materials on our website. And now we've got three community groups from around the state. First up is, as I mentioned, the Alaska Recreation and Parks Association. Joel Todd is the Assistant Director and Soldotna of the Parks and Rec Department. He's also President of ARPA. He's also a board member of the Salteshi Trails Association, who we heard from yesterday, and has led trail crews for Alaska State Parks. He was born and raised in Soldotna and spends as many days as possible out on our trails, hiking, mountain biking, dog walking, cross-country skiing, fat biking, paddling, and backcountry snowboarding. And if you were here yesterday, you saw his beautiful new baby in the Salteshi presentation. So anyway, please welcome Joel Todd.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, like Steve said, I love the trails. Been a part of a few different organizations. I've just recently been joined the ARPA team as a board member and now the president. I think I missed a meeting and then they just voted me right in. So be careful of that. So ARPA's been around for a while. It's the Alaska Recreation and Parks Association. It's not a federal funding that came out during COVID times. That was a $300 billion American Recovery Act, which really screwed up our names. And now if you Google ARPA, you get a bunch of funding stuff, which is not exactly us. So I've got a few slides and just going to talk a little bit about what we're doing. We don't specifically work out in the field doing trails, but we do represent a lot of different types of recreation activities, and we'll kind of jump into a few of them. And see if I can get that to go. He said, press the arrow button. Oh, do we got to touch something? So as we work on this, the Alaska Recreation Parks Association, we're a chapter of the National Parks Association. So we kind of, we kind of represent Alaska, at the national level too. So the history of our organization started with Bob Robertson and some of his crew back in the day, back in 1976. I wanted to bring Bob back into here because we are in Anchorage and he was the director of Anchorage's Parks and Rec Department for about 20 years back in the heyday when money was flying off the trees and we could build all sorts of things. You can see him and his crew in Anchorage, some of these recreation facilities like Dempsey and Benboki and Sullivan and the Tony Nose Coastal Trail, or he was a big part of all of that. But he also realized that we needed a stronger voice in the recreation world, which is the same message that we're hearing this week is we need to come together. We need to be at the table when big decisions are made. We need our expertise in this room to be heard by the people that have the checkbook or that are making decisions in Juneau or DC. And so he started and with quite a few other people, our chapter of the Rec Association. So we'll talk a little bit about our goals and kind of stuff like that. But really, like our big thing is professional training. We really want to up all of our skills and so we do a lot of training opportunities. We try to bring in trainers from outside to provide some expertise for us to learn from. There's a few national certification programs that we encourage our members to get into. There's certified Parks and Rec professionals. There's an executive branch. There's a playground safety and an aquatics certification. And so these are just opportunities for our members and people in Alaska to sort of up their game. Sometimes it's helpful to have those fancy acronyms behind your name when you're going into boardrooms or meeting with people. We're not just, covered in dirty Carhartts and extra cuffs. We actually have some certifications. And so sometimes that'll open up doors that weren't opening up before when we're trying to make decisions. We also love supporting other people's educational opportunities, like the Alaska Trails Conference. I know we've been involved with these guys for a long time. Again, an opportunity for people from all over the state to come together and network and learn, share ideas. That's a huge part about what ARPA is all about. We do host our own conference, which we'll look at some photos here in a second. Every year we bring together all of our members from around the state for a 3-4 day conference to, again, learn, network, kind of share ideas. I mean, you guys, Anchorage is a little bit different, but normally like our departments are like one person, maybe 2 people. Our trail crews are like 3 or 4 people, right? We feel like we're just isolated, and a lot of times Alaska Trails or ARPA or these other organizations can help bring us all back together and realize that we're not just one person down in Wrangell trying to do everything. We're actually a part of a bigger family. So that's another cool thing that we're up to. Scholarships, we do have scholarships to bring people to our conference or to other training opportunities. So, members, of our crew can apply for a scholarship for in-state and out-of-state conferences. So if there's something you're passionate about, that you really, again, your funding budget is 0 or none, that's another opportunity because we value that education. We want to make sure that we're continuing to grow and seek out these opportunities. We kind of got called out by Ricky and his GIS mapping. One of the other things, we love science. We love, like outcome focused, knowledge and approaches. And Ricky's like, yeah, cool. We got all the national stuff. We got all the state stuff. But man, these cities and boroughs, like we don't really have any of their trails and facilities on our GIS mapping. And that's where we can come in and help these smaller communities. Again, sometimes we don't have anybody on our staff that knows how to do GIS work, or, a lot of our trail maps are just, pencil drawings on a piece of paper that we've been photocopying for, 40 years. And so as an organization, we can help provide some of those resources or make that a priority for some of these smaller communities. And so we promise Ricky that we will get all of our borough and city trails into the GSM mapping. And if you don't know what that is, definitely watch those presentations from earlier this week. It's going to be a really cool resource when it goes live. A couple other things too that I heard several times during this week was sort of navigating government red tape or hurdles or the chaos. That's another thing that our members are good at. We're typically representing cities and boroughs around the state. And so we know how to sort of play by those rules. And so if you're, an active community member in Seward that really wants to improve your skiing trails or your hiking trails, but you just don't know where to go, call us up, because we know that Seward's a part of our organization, and they know how to navigate the systems, and they can help these user groups sort of improve trails. And we also hear constantly, the funding is a tricky one. We lean on our volunteer groups, but we can provide some of those skills on how to get through. Red tape is it seems like there's a lot of hurdles sometimes. I think that's kind of who we are for the most part. Like I said, we do a conference every year. The past 2 years was down in Soldotna. We do a lot of education. These are the photos that we show our bosses so that we give permission to travel and go to these workshops. So it's similar to this training. There's a lot of information, a lot of opportunities to learn and and steal ideas from your neighbors and work together and put faces to emails and whatnot. The other thing that we're really good at though is playing. We all are in recreation to have fun. And so that's a big part of what we try to provide too is opportunities for our conference members to relax and try new things. This year's conference, or actually last year's conference, was really focused on adaptive recreation. And so we brought in some adaptive hockey sleds in the top left and the bottom right there, and got out there and learned how to play hockey with, if you have mobility issues, this really is a game changer for the hockey community. So everybody can get out there and play. It's actually ridiculously hard. We did bring down some adaptive mountain bikes. So we're talking about a trail thing that I learned, like, wow, once you get onto these bikes, you realize that a lot of our single track is not designed for adaptive bikes. And so some of the newer stuff is getting built, and some of the bikes are actually getting designed a little bit differently where you can lean into the corners. Not something I really realized until last year's conference, that like when we're doing these trails, it's not just thinking about one user group, like cross country skiing or somebody walking. We really should be thinking about all of our user groups. Some other fun pictures. We love to play on toys and anytime we can start up some giant piece of equipment and play on it, we're good. And then the bottom one is our conference. We're hockey rink based, so we did a lot of stuff out on the ice, and that is keg curling. If you have an opportunity to huck a giant keg of beer down a hockey rink, I encourage you to seek out those opportunities. And then we did some, both years in Soldotna, we got out onto Solteshi and we took a tour of our trails with some mountain bikes and just a good opportunity. So next year's conference is going to be in Wrangell. Actually, the next 2 years is going to be in Wrangell. And so I encourage anybody that's interested in what we do and how we do it, and especially if you're in the Southeast. I've already seen some of the programming that's going to happen this year down there, and it's going to be really exciting. There's going to be a couple different trail elements. Alaska Recreation Parks Association is a little bit of everything. We do hockey, we do pools, we do basketball stuff and playgrounds, and lawns and flowers. But we also do trails. It's a big part of every community. And so definitely lean on us or come hang out with us if you get a chance. Some of our members, like when we're looking at like some of the main crew, we have people from all over the state. So Fairbanks, North Star Borough is a huge member of ARPA. City and Borough of Juneau, so Denali Borough, Homer, the North Penn Rec service area, and Nikiski, Seward, Soldotna, Kenai, Wrangell, I think I said. So in the Matsu Borough, Nome is always a big part of our team. Wasilla. We actually have part of our Matsu crew over there. Alan has been a part of ARPA for a long time, so it's good to see. Here's our sort of leadership team, and I'm almost done. Again, Mike down at Homer, Juneau. We represent communities from all over the state, so it doesn't matter where you're at. You have an ally in the rec community that you can lean on. So that's kind of it. That's our website. And I'm sure there's a lot I missed, but that's.
Got time for one question. Anybody have a question about ARPA? Anything you want to know from, oh yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
There currently is not an Anchorage representative. That's for a number of different reasons. I think there's just a lot more resources in Anchorage. One thing that ARPA is really good at is like when you're a department of one or two, like we can help bring together resources. When you're Anchorage, your budget's bigger. You don't need as much help, maybe. but we hope and plan to make sure that Anchorage is a part of the team again. And obviously they were at the beginning. It's just, you know, times are a little bit different and things have shifted a little bit.
Thanks, Joe.
I just wanted to emphasize Joel's got information back there that Will's looking at right now. We'll hope that you'll take advantage of that. I've been to ARPA conference in Juneau. My board member Kate Thomas is the Parks and Rec person in Wrangell. It's going to be there. They do a really great job of having it all across the state. And then part of it, like he just said, you know, they had it in Soldotna and everybody got to go on the Salteshi trails, which I'm sure a lot of people hadn't been on before. I'd been to Wrangell once, you know, 25 years ago, and I don't remember anything. So, you know, it's a fun opportunity to explore a new place, meet a lot of cool people, and then and learn some new skills. And I will also say that they're really good about having different kinds of trainings and certificates that that come from their conference. So next up, while I fumble with the technology, we're super excited to have the Kenai Peninsula Backcountry Horsemen of Alaska Association. We've got both the treasurer and the president. And while I attempt to get their presentation up here, and I really hope it works, because I would vote them the award of best photos. Asked both Mary Green and Craig Sanders for bio photos, and they sent these amazing fall colors. Come on up, you two. Amazing fall colors of just beautiful. You know, like I was like, is that Alaska? Man. And then the map they have in the back and the project they're going to speak about are trails I hadn't heard of. So I'm super excited to welcome them. I'll do a brief introduction, and I think Mary told me that Craig is going to be the one standing here with the microphone. But Mary is the treasurer, as I mentioned, of the Kenai Peninsula Backcountry Horsemen of Alaska Association, and has been since starting in 2016. She's been involved with the Kasilop equestrian trails and many other projects that the group has been involved in. She is the contact person with the DOT for the Sterling Highway project, with working for a better parking lot that includes equestrian and horse trailers. So if you think about it, like, I'm not a horse person, but I think about all the equipment and gear and what you'd have to do to get your horse around. It would be pretty annoying if there wasn't a spot to offload. She's also been working a lot, which is where our paths first crossed, I believe, with the Chugach National Forest for better parking lots and reestablishing horse areas. You might have seen them if you've hiked the Resurrection Trail before, but the fire there destroyed some of the, what I guess I'll say are hitching posts. That might not be the right thing. But anyway, she and her husband own a general contracting company in Soldotna and have been in business since 1976. And then I'll move over to Craig. Craig, as we mentioned, is the president of the Kenai Peninsula Backcountry Horsemen's Association, served as president since 2021, was vice president before that. He's been involved in the implementation and maintenance of the Kasilop equestrian trails, and that's the ones we invited them to talk about today, that were the main focus of the organization as predecessors since he joined in 2019. Craig moved to the Kenai in 2004, and then hit the trails soon after in the Kenai Refuge and other wilderness areas on horseback. He works as a soil conservationist for the USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and lives in Clam Gulch with his wife and 2 children who join him on exploring and maintaining trails. He strives to keep trails open for use by historically designated users and to promote the significance of horsemen in the historic development of trails in Alaska. So please welcome Craig and Mary. That. And so for the Zoom folks, you got to stand right in front here, and then that one makes it go forward. At least I hope so. All right. Yeah, I can kind of commiserate with our last speaker, and
I joined the Backcountry Horsemen Association to work on trails, just to get out and run saws and open up access to different backcountry. And all of a sudden I was the vice president, and then voted in as president, so it's interesting, it's fun, but just a little bit of history for those of you that aren't familiar with Backcountry Horsemen of America. We have 212 chapters in 32 states and about 13,000 members. In 2021, we had about 196,000 volunteer hours nationwide. And I can't remember that, added up to a lot of money as far as volunteer hours. And we work in a lot of mountain states, keeping access open to national forest, BLM, that kind of thing. We're a nationwide organization that's committed to protecting access of equestrians to public lands. And here on the peninsula, we've been around since
2016.
2016.
2016, yeah.
Worked a lot with the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge, but let's see.
Oh, sorry, Craig, I have to have you stand. We'll have Larry shift over and you gotta kind of stand right here, otherwise people can't hear you.
Aha, okay. All right,
Excellent.
yeah. All right, this is our seal for the Alaska chapter. Had to Alaskanize it, I guess. Yeah, so here's just a couple pictures to let you know what we enjoy doing, I guess.
Oh, we got everybody, yeah.
This picture is of Craig riding the horse there.
Yeah, this is the north shore of Tuscaloosa Lake. One of our, well, several of us have ulterior motives to keeping trails open, and that's access to the backcountry to help fill freezers in the fall. All right, next slide. Okay, so the reason we're here to talk to you guys today is about the Kasilop equestrian trails. And we started, well, the chapter was talking about this trail project before I entered into the picture. And Grant Fritz was probably the one that spearheaded it the most. And it's on a piece of borough property, about 800 acres, on the way from Yukon Road to the Pollard Horse Trail that leads out to Tuscaloosa Lake. And I'd say probably in 2003 or 4, a big portion of that borough property had burned, and really actually helped to make it more accessible for horses and trail building. And so over the course of a lot of years, I think people going back and forth through that property decided to improve it, and they utilized game trails and old historic trails, and we came up with a plan to put in a nice little trail system. Our chapter had to get a permit from the borough, similar to what I think Salteshi does. And yeah, we're kind of modeling some of what we do after the success of Salteshi trails. And we hope to at some point do a little bit of trail maintenance for people that want to do some cross-country skiing and snowshoeing and that sort of thing in the winter. Yeah, it's there might be a little more winter maintenance involved, but it'll be fun. So in 2020, we started building the trail. It started with a process of getting out and just scouting out a couple of routes, and then we got in a piece of equipment. It was like a Fecon. It was had the a Bobcat on tracks with the big disc mulcher on the front of it, not necessarily the big rotary heads on the front. And we got 6 miles of trail put in that year. Consequently, after doing that, we found other routes, saw things we wanted to do. So in 2021, we put in another 4 miles. And in 2022, we were able to put in 2 more miles approximately. One of our hurdles with this project is parking area. And so we can access the trail off of Yukon Road outside of Casila. But the parking right now is on private land in a gravel pit that luckily the gentleman that has the gravel pit is really accommodating. But we're working with the borough, hopefully try to get a flap grant or something to help with getting the parking area in and the road maintained. If any of you ever venture out there, I would advise not going during breakup. That Yukon Road is
Terrible.
It's ugly. Even if you're riding a bike on it, it wouldn't be very much.
You barely ride your four-wheeler down it in the springtime.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so in 2021, I think is when we got the loop that goes over to Secret Lake, which is the far east loop there. And that's, most of these trails are, they are compatible with several different user groups. I'm not sure, sure it's going to be great for four-wheeled or the wider traffic, but hopefully over the years we can get things smoothed out and look better in that regard. Maybe next slide. All right, so a big part of our program is similar to what a lot of you deal with, I'm sure, you know, volunteers, hard work, dedication. There's a photo of the machine that we used. Had a couple of operators that were really accommodating as far as coming out and working with us and picking good days and giving us a little bit of heads up on when they could come and do that. And then a bunch of our group members would go out and either you know, go out in front of him, clear trail in front of him, and make it so things went a little faster, cut down on the hourly rate.
One of the things that we do is we get a big pole with a red flag on it. And you walk way in front of the Fecon. You don't want to get close to it. And he follows the red flag. So we're walking out there, we're thinking, okay, a horse can do this, a horse can do that. And so, you know, we've got a big red flag clear up here, you know, that we're waving around, and he sees it, and then he goes and follows us. And that's pretty much how we put our trails in. I don't know how Solteshi did it, but that's how we've done it. Because we know where our horses can go. And, you know, we try to stay away from the wet areas as much as possible. Sometimes we kind of don't, but this slide kind of just shows you where, you know, we get a group of horsemen out there. And so anyway, we have a fun time working out there too.
Yeah, so let's see. Just a little bit of the trail here and some of the work that's been done. We let's see, we get keep going.
Okay.
This is National Trail Day in 2022. We try to get out and do maintenance on Trail Day, and if it's during the week, it's not the best turnout for everybody, but we get a few families out there. Yeah, so each year we have a annual fun ride as kind of it's a fundraiser for us, and it gets a lot of people out there. We've had 50+ riders at a time. It introduces people to the trail, and they come back later. We get people from the Matsu, other parts of the state that will come for the fun ride, and then eventually they will come back at different times of the year and utilize the trail. We'd love to make that more accessible with the parking lot and better road conditions. Some of our partnerships, we work with the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge quite a bit. Some of their trail maintenance crews, we help supply them with whatever they need when they're working on trails that we can access and they're in the wilderness. We'll get a few volunteers and we'll take supplies in via pack horse, spend the night with their trail crew, and then come back out the next day. The Chugach National Forest, like Mary's bio said, she's been working with them on the parking lot for the new Sterling Highway reroute, and we're glad we have had Mary working on that, because their first iteration of a parking lot up near the bridge that'll be crossing near Bridle or near the falls there. It was small. It was it wouldn't have accommodated horse trailers, and I don't think you could have turned one around hardly inside there. There was a bunch of cars there. So
they did make a change. That was pretty exciting. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that they actually listened and they made a change for us, and they added bigger parking area. They're going to add some hitching posts, areas for the horse trailers to be there. So that was, and they also have a separate trail that will lead from the parking lot for the horses to go out. And I don't know if you've been to Juneau Falls, you know, it's kind of a popular spot for people to go to. And so they've kind of gave us our separate trail so that we don't have to go through the one area that's kind of close to the canyon, which can be kind of treacherous. If you've ever hiked it or biked it, it's kind of like, yowza, I wouldn't want to have, I mean, I've ridden my horse up there many times. I choose not to anymore because of the fact that that canyon is dangerous. There's other ways of getting in on Resurrection, going down Bean Creek Trail or going what we classify with a winter trail that snow machiners use. Anyway, so they have accommodated the horses and also the snow machines. If the parking lot will be plowed, I'm not sure yet whether that's going to happen or not, because that's going to be up to Chugach National Forest to maintain that when they turn it over. But snow machine trailers will be able to go in there in the wintertime and park, but our horse trailers will be able to go in there. And can I just interstate? One of the things that we had a meeting with the Chugach National Forest Zoom meeting, this last spring. One of the comments was made was, well, I never see horses on the trail. And I'm like, well, you're just not out there when we're out there. But one of the reasons is because our parking lots are so small, they don't accommodate the horse trailers. So we either have to park on the highway, which is kind of scary. You know, it's scary to ride your horse along the highway, especially, you know, you got trucks and buses going by. And things do happen that you don't want to happen, horse spooks or something like that, because the bus or the big truck all of a sudden puts his Jake brakes on. That's real fun. Anyway, so that was the one thing was that, well, we don't have parking lots to go park, but I've ridden all of those trails on the Kenai Peninsula with my horses, so I know it's happening. You just didn't see it. So anyway.
All right, let's see. 4-H clubs, we actually, we have a scholarship that's helping to fund some 4-H clubs with a equine contest that they're doing, and we do equine packing clinic with 4-H clubs on the peninsula. Of course, the borough, they've been a great partner as far as the equestrian trail. The Matsu Backcountry Horsemen's chapter, we work closely with them. The Hillcorp Giving Program, we went attended their fair last year, and the Alaska Community Foundation has been great with grants to help us with signage and some other things to get started on that equestrian trail. All right, the share the trail. These signs, one of the things we found when we talked to the Chugach National Forest was they don't have very many of these signs anywhere, and they didn't even have any to put up, so they got a bunch ordered. And this is just something to remind people that horses, if they're allowed on the trail, they do have the right of way, and it's lets you know that you should let your horse and let the horse and rider know you're there. Talk to them, let them know you're a human. You know, somebody with a big backpack, it can be kind of scary, and then a bicycle roaring up behind them can spook them pretty good too. And we don't want anybody to get hurt. Not us, not somebody getting kicked, that sort of thing. A horse and rider will get off the trail as quickly as they can to let bikers pass. It has to be a good spot to get off the trail. It has to be a safe place. It can't be a bog. It's can't be too steep. And we want everybody to enjoy the trails and have a good time. So that's hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of these signs go up on trails. Yep.
So just one thing, that if you do come up to a horse and rider on the trail, and most of the horses are out there, you take them out there and they've already been exposed to it. But the main thing is so funny is you come across somebody like they're walking towards you, and they have a big backpack on, and they got like, their fishing poles hanging out there. Well, that looks like a monster to a horse. Okay. And you'll go, hey, what are you doing today? And they look at you like, and they don't say anything. It's like, oh, so are you having fun today? They don't say anything. All you're doing is trying to get them to talk. So know that it's okay to talk to the horse and rider. In fact, it's really a good idea, because that way the horse all of a sudden says, oh, you're a human. But if they see this person with a great big old nasty thing on their backs, they're not quite sure what they are. So it's like, so anyway, so if one of us asks you a stupid question, just go ahead and answer it. Because it's kind of like, if I ask you your name, they're like, why do you want to know my name? The only reason is because I just want to get you to talk. So make sure that you do talk around horses. Let the riders know that you're there, and allow them to have time to get off. And then the other thing is, don't hide behind a tree. Don't go over there and hide behind a tree and then step out. It's like, what? That's what the horses will do, because they, especially big backpack on your back. So main thing is just make noise. Let them know that you're there, and everybody have just a great time out there, and we'll all get along if that happens. So, yeah.
Short on time.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, there you go. So our motto is we're committed to preserving access to public lands and education and encouragement of responsible stewardship. We want to see other users on trails. We want to help maintain trails, and I like to let everybody know that I've been on a lot of trails throughout the state, and older historic trails, and those trails were established with the use of horses, and we try to maintain anything we use, and try to keep it clean and usable for other people. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Don't forget your phone there, Greg. I really appreciate it. Again, they've got one of the signs in the back there, their maps and some wonderful photos. So I hope you'll hang out with them a bit during lunchtime. I blinked. How's it going? Speaking of lunch, Lee just went out there and rescued us and got the lunch set up. So she's going to be coming up here with Will Tagan to talk about a fun new thing that they are spearheading, which has the acronym AMBA. Do you say AMBA or AMBA?
It's AMBA because that's cooler.
AMBA. And if I apologies to Zoom audience for my poor screen sharing a little bit ago. They went halfway through the previous presentation, and then somebody wisely texted me and said you didn't share it correctly. So anyway, I wish I could say lesson learned, but that's happened like 17 times, so I don't think it's gonna work. We heard from Lee yesterday, so I'm just gonna introduce Will and then pass it over to those two. I'm gonna go check on the lunch afterwards, but I did want to remind everybody, ARPA's got some stuff, the Kenai Peninsula Backcountry Horsemen, and then Will and Lee are gonna continue the conversation over lunch about the Alaska Mountain Bike Alliance. So hope you'll find them if you're interested in hearing more about it. And without further ado, I'll introduce Will Tagan. He was raised in Minnesota, but he's lived in Chugach with his family for nearly 20 years. He's the executive director of the Chugach Mountain Bike Riders. So he's running a local club out in Chugach. He's interested, as you'll soon hear, in uniting mountain bikers across the state. Over the past 7 years, Will has led the development of the Mirror Lake single track Ben's Bike Playground and has written dozens of grants, bringing over $1 million into Chugach Eagle River Fort Trail development, and that's continuing to this day. Will has spearheaded a coalition of Chugach Eagle River trail groups to more effectively advocate for local projects and is looking forward to empowering mountain bikers with the new statewide Alaska Mountain Bike Alliance. Please welcome Will Tagan and Lee Hart.
Thank you, Steve. First thing I like to do is everyone turn to your neighbor, someone that you don't know that well, and tell them the last trail that you were on. You got 1 minute and then discuss. Ready, go. Seconds. And you people on Zoom can throw it in the chat. All right. Thanks, everybody. So this is why we're here, right? We're here because of community. We're here because we value the input with other trail folks, right? And so we are here to make those connections. And so what we've done in Alaska is we've done this. Well, first of all, also who has a mountain bike? Who really wants a mountain bike?
Who has more than one mountain
Oh
bike?
no, who has more than one mountain? We don't ask such questions. So what we've done really well in Alaska is we have kind of two real strengths that we have. One is mountain bike development and population center. So we have clubs in Anchorage, in Girdwood, Chugach, the Valley, down in Soldotna, Homer. Seward's got some folks going on, Fairbanks, Juneau, some folks in Sitka. We've talked with people in Kodiak. those are doing well. The other place that we're doing really well in is public lands, and a lot of you guys are public lands managers, right? We've got basically the Kenai 250 is amazing, right? Johnson Pass, Lost Lake, Resurrection Pass, Crescent, and then up in Fairbanks. I don't know Fairbanks that well except for the winter stuff, but you know, the White Mountains and all that wonderful stuff. So we have a couple strengths that we're really leaning on here in this state, but we're really, oh, is that blocking all my stuff there? Whatever, it's fine. So we've done this great job. In fact, this is just kind of a list of bicycle organizations that I thought of. You know, I don't really know that much about the interior Southeast, but I know there's a Fairbanks Club, there's a Juneau Club. Kenai, you know, you have the Salteshi and Homer, and then South Central is really, there's a lot. Valley Mountain Bikers and Hikers, which runs the kids program, Sprott Kids. We've got Ski Talk, which is the nonprofit ski area that's putting together a bike park out in kind of north of Palmer, Wasilla. Chugach Mountain Bike Riders, we're developing the Mirror Lake Trails. We've got our kids program. Single Track Advocates, who basically, you know, spearheaded this whole thing and are continuing to strongly develop mountain bike trails in the Anchorage Bowl. Kind of associated with them is Mighty Bikes, the kids program. Bike Anchorage, which is doing the active transportation side of Anchorage. We've got Hilltop Bike Park and Alyeska Bike Park, which are both, well, Hilltop is a nonprofit here in town as well. And then Bikewood, which is the new name for the Girdwood Club. So that's a lot of people all doing similar things, right? And we're all trying to reinvent the wheel. So we've got a couple goals. So first of all, what groups are we missing? Can someone, who am I missing on this? Anyone? Did I get them all? Who am I missing? Oh, Alaska Dirt Divas. Excellent. Anyone else? I mean, this is a real question. I'm trying to figure out who I'm missing. We're doing pretty well there. All right. So now here's a good question. What regions lack representation? This one should be easier. North Slope. Where else? Valdez. Oh, they actually have the Adventure Alliance, right? Is out there. That's you then. Awesome. Summer biking in Valdez. Where else are we missing representation? The Aleutians. Yeah. No. So we're thinking of all these great population centers, but what we're really missing is the places that don't have people, right? Who is representing, who is advocating for mountain bike use on the long trail as a whole, right? It's a whole bunch of these population centers that are there, but if we're looking at building a dream of these alpine bike packing routes, Alaska Trails is doing a great job working with all the local organizations, but on the Kenai, the land managers have those trails open, but there's no group watching Johnson Pass. There's some individuals who would be just kind of saying, oh, someone needs to go out and brush that, but there's not a support advocacy group for a lot of these lands that are outside of the population center. So one thing we need statewide is a group that does represent places that don't have a club. So another thing that we need is, like I said before, is a true coalition, right? And a communication within the groups. I was talking with we've been talking with the Valley and with Chukiak, Anchorage, and Juneau, and we're like, hey, how come we don't? We were talking today, let's do a volunteer appreciation. Let's do it all together. Let's get people, rather than getting your hat for each club right there.
I give you a friendly Zoom reminder.
Do I need to zoom into here?
You need to be right there.
Oh my God. So, yeah, like, why don't we just have a party with all the groups together? Let's start with something that easy. So with that, we think, what other functions would a statewide group provide? Any ideas? What do you, I've come up with some ideas. What else do we need? Fundraising. Ooh. Yeah. Anything else? Representation, that's excellent. Yes. Conditions reporting, love it. Winter grooming, especially outside of the population centers. What else? Love it. Volunteer coordination. Excellent. I love that one. Trail connectivity. Well, those are some good ideas. I'm not gonna, I did used to teach elementary school, so I always count to 10 to make you guys answer a question. So then we move into where does it get trickier, right? So, how are we gonna structure this? Who's gonna pay for it? We're running on volunteers, right? We're running on people that don't have extra time to create a brand new club. So somehow this club needs to match what the volunteers are giving, right? It needs to help these existing local groups as well as provide for the larger group. And from there, I'm going to kind of pass it off to Lee because while I'm representing the groups, Lee definitely has more perspective on some other parts of what a statewide coalition could be. And we realize it's almost lunchtime, so I'm okay for lunch. Okay, here's Lee.
Hi again. And so one of the things that one fundamental thing I believe about the entirety of our outdoor recreation sector is we are stronger together. And that applies for each of the different user groups. Alaska Trails unites the hiking community and equestrian, has a lot of stakeholders. But in my observations, I think that there is an awful lot of energy going into trail development right now that's coming out of the mountain bike community. It is not quantified. It is not, the stories aren't being shared because everybody's so immersed in their own little, in their worlds that we aren't telling that story of what is happening in Alaska. The 12-mile Hemlock Burn Trail. I have looked all over the internet for a 12-mile flow trail. I can't find anything that even comes close. It's an amazing asset. When you look also at other mountain bike organizations and how they impact communities and draw, especially young families, and that breweries and distilleries follow. But but in order to have that seat at the table that we talk a lot about, we need it's helpful to have an organization that aggregates information, like number of miles, number of trails, or where those trails are, and also where we want them to be, to preserve access. For example, if any of you have ridden in Healy, it's the destination for some of our best downhill riding in the state, and yet there's other plans in Healy going on that threaten that actual asset. So with the clubs so focused on developing stuff in their own neighborhoods, it's handy again to have that umbrella organization that puts the information together to have things like MOUs with land management agencies to say, these groups are qualified to work with you to plan and develop and maintain trails. It's used in other kinds of relationships like that. To have industry support for the organization from bike manufacturers, from trail building organizations, from but it just goes with us, distilleries and breweries and things like that, and the places where bikers go afterward. And also, I believe that in the forums that I read anywhere there's forums, mostly Facebook, I would argue that Alaska is at least a decade behind in having a recognition from other trail users that there's a place on our trails for mountain bikers. We get slings and arrows from other user groups, and there's still some of the contentious interactions. And when we're either planning and developing trails, or even on the trail, that, you know, having an umbrella organization to help with the messaging, to help with educating the public, to help create toolkits for the groups to use when they're doing those types of things. So that's the role, that's a part of the advocacy role of a statewide group, as well as the one thing I didn't hear, but the information sharing. So when you guys are built, like our trails are different, right? The mountain bike trails are built to different standards. I in really broad, blunt terms, I always say you can identify who built a trail by the way, by the how you navigate it. So hikers in the old days, not so much anymore, but hikers used to build Z turns, right? Like they're very abrupt. I'm going this way and this way and this way to get up a hill. And climbers are like, I see rock, I want to go rock, and they just go straight up. And then bikers have these more flowy trails with berms, maybe some fun features and things like that. So, and they're also, they tend to be user-friendly for other groups. So anyway, so sharing that information about trail building that's specific to this sport is important, and a central location. Like sometimes you have to be like in the underground, the mountain bike underground, to know, you know, or a super avid rider to know where there's events going on. So if you had a central repository for that type of information and it's easier to find, then you know, things start to grow and blossom as they can. So I think that that's about my summation.
All right. Do you guys have any questions for the whole group?
Put this up while you do. Except this one.
All right, so we're gonna be grabbing lunch, and then Lee and I will be back at the tables here. If you guys are interested in sharing information, we'd love to hear your ideas, because we don't really know exactly what this is gonna look like. So
Let's give Will and Lee a hand. Thanks to all of our presenters, and again, take advantage of the fact that they're going to be in this room to talk more, and they've got some of their materials. We're going to have 2 sessions going at 1 o'clock. Matt Steffi's going to be in here. Matt Steffi from Homer talking about trails as transportation. And then upstairs, Mike Shields will be talking about how to break rock. And you're going to get a tour of the upstairs, because that's where the lunch got placed. So go out like you're going to the bathroom, then walk up the stairs and grab some lunch, and see you back here at 1.